And the question is, and by the way, these questions came from East Greenwich News readers, and we appreciate their contributions. We got a lot of submissions. If a business or businesses wanted to relocate to the Bostich property on South County Trail, would you consider a tax treaty, or sometimes referred to as a tax forbearance or tax forgiveness, to entice them to relocate in East Greenwich? What is your stand on providing incentives to businesses looking to relocate to East Greenwich in general? We're going to start this round with Mark Schwager, okay?
Well, we do have precedent for this in town. We have the Yardney Battery Company, which is now on Route 2 and Middle Road. You may remember that Cherry Semiconductors was there for a long time, and they were very valuable to the town in a number of ways. They used a lot of water and paid a lot of sewer revenue. When they left, Yardney was looking for a new area to relocate, and East Greenwich was very attractive to them for a variety of reasons. I think we did work with Yardney, and we did offer them incentives to come to town. We offered them ways to mitigate some of the costs for their build-out, and thorough analysis was done to make sure that the town would benefit from them coming here, despite having to give them some incentives to come to town. And I think it's been very successful. They've been a low-impact business here. They're paying good revenues. They're using some of the water services, although not as much as Cherry Semiconductor. As far as someone coming to the Bostich area, we do have a precedent, and we have proven that we can successfully recruit businesses here. I think East Greenwich, by offering the quality of life, the services, municipal services, public safety, is very attractive for companies to come here. We also have demonstrated that we can work well with businesses, as we did with Yardney. I think that appropriate incentives can be very beneficial. We also worked well when New England Institute of Technology came to town. We had to negotiate and work with them to bring a new big institution to town. So I think the development of the Bostich plant would be very helpful to the town. It would be nice to be able to get a single business there, a single vendor, perhaps light manufacturing or high-tech manufacturing in that plant. There are a couple of unknowns there. We don't know what kind of soil contamination may be lurking there, but again, we can address those issues.
Okay, let's hear from Ed Field next on whether we should have any kind of tax forgiveness for business, and if you have specifics in terms of how long. I know some states and some communities offer 10 years tax forgiveness on property taxes, and then they pick it up and they use that as an incentive. But what are your thoughts, Ed?
Basically, business likes to be welcomed to a town. I think the attitude of the building inspector, the fire department, the fire inspector, the policemen, and the town committees that talk to the businesses are the ones that really make a presentation that this is a good place to be or it's not a good place to be. I think we have a head start there because we are well represented and well managed. I don't particularly believe a business needs an incentive to go somewhere. A business needs to go to a building like Bostich if they want to expand, if the building makes sense for them, and you do not need to offer them specific financial incentives to get them to come. I would probably, if elected, in that circumstance, if we don't already have some candidates for Bostich, get a hold of a friend of mine who's built quite a few properties up in the Woburn, Mass area named Bill Cummings, and ask him to come down and help me figure out what might be a suitable application for the building. He has a tendency to break buildings into smaller units where more companies can come in with a variety of businesses rather than to try to find a giant company.
Okay, next we're going to have Sue Yankee address specifically the Bostich property and whether there should be some tax incentives or other kinds of financial incentives to bring someone here.
Okay, I think that we should encourage, as members of the town council, any business growth in town. I'm a little leery about promoting a tax treaty, but I would encourage any specific talks and limit it to terms. We'd have to evaluate that. It's pretty difficult in 30 seconds to say whether or not you'd agree with tax treaty when you don't even know what business is going to be in Bostich at the current time. So we would encourage communication with any business that was interested in coming, and be open to any and all possibilities, including terms, term limits, and how long such a tax relief would be incurred by the taxpayers.
All right, Sue, thank you. Todd, your thoughts? Sean, Todd?
So yeah, so like you said, Mark, like the 10 years, no taxes, like all I think is all the commercials I see about New York State,
Exactly.
you know? So like, you know, I'm a political outsider, right? My company started, when I started in 1989, it was a $40 million laboratory, and now we're gonna reach $1 billion. And the reason, and what we've done is we've stayed in that town, and we've grown, and it used to be a small suite, and now it's the entire street. So like, I am a big believer in I'd be open to listen to incentivizing companies to bring proposals to the council. You know, we talk about in these candidate meetings that we've had to take a look at the budget, and there's not a ton to cut, right? So the other end of that seesaw is the revenue side of things. So again, I mean, we're next to Quonset, which is a huge park, you know, there that are incentivizing people to go to do business there. So I think we have to be competitive. So I would be open to it.
Okay, Robert, your thoughts on tax treaty or forbearance for that Bostich property?
Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to go over, but as far as existing buildings, I think not. Because like Sean just said, he goes, here you are, you're going to be cutting into the pie that's already there. And as far as if you have a new business coming in, yes, you could, if that's going to start from the ground up and build new. I could see giving them an incentive because that's something that you don't have, that you're not losing. But if you have an existing building that's paying X amount of dollars in taxes, and if you're going to want this business to come in, are they going to knock the building down and build a new one? Are they going to just move into what's there? If they're going to move into what's there, then pay the taxes on what's there. But as far as, because that's the difference in building new and using existing. If it's going to affect everybody else because they're going to have to make up the difference in lost taxes, how does that benefit the average taxpayer for how many years? So as far as I know, the Stanley Bostich building is being used now, just not by Stanley Bostich.
Okay.
That's
A
correct.
variety of opinions on this, so this may stir a little debate. Bill Stone, your
I think
thoughts?
that's correct. I'm not sure how much there's a difference in what's been said so far. I don't think we need to do a tax treaty as a town for that facility. Now, that's a big facility. There are businesses that could move in there, could bring a lot of jobs. They could be coming from out of state. I mean, I think that town leaders could maybe help a business coming in work with the state to see if there are some incentives, some breaks, some help they can get to bring some jobs to Rhode Island. And I think that's something that the town leadership can be active in helping to navigate and promote. I don't think as a town we would need to do any tax treaty there, although you wouldn't want to rule it out. It's a package you want to see what the net impact's going to be on you. But in terms of a job generating opportunity, that's something the state should be very interested in. As a town, I think we'd also want to make it easy as we can for that business to show up. So the permit process, approval processes, I think we'd work very hard to streamline those so that the businesses can move in, feel like they're welcome, and get started with the hiring and the filling that building up with some great improvements that we can collect revenue from as well.
Okay, let's come back to this end of the table, and let me get the microphone out, or let our cameraman do this. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because Steve is here, Steve Lombardi, the state EDC helped out on the Yardney deal as well, so this isn't something just limited to the town. Obviously the state can, that's why they exist, right? All right, Gene Dumas, his thoughts on any tax treaty for the Bostich property and what we might do to develop that.
Well, I'd like to throw this out to some General Assembly members, Mr. Eptakis and Mr. G. Russo. how do you become more competitive regionally? With our partners in other states that offer certain tax rates and benefits, how do we get more business in the state? I think I read an article a few months back about the visceral opposition to business, I think, something like that. How do we make it more friendly, more competitive in the region? We'd have to look at more incentives. I don't know if that's the answer. I'd like to see maybe tax rate structures change a bit in the state. And hopefully with the General Assembly helping us, we can provide more incentives for companies to long-term relationships with companies, not just boom, boom, boom. Get the incentive, 5 years and they're gone maybe, but see if we can foster more long-term relationships with good companies here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Michael Isaacs, the final candidate to answer the question about Bostich.
Thank you. I have to say, I'm in a little difficult position answering this question, because since I am on the town council and council president, I want to say that we have been pursuing, since the building has been substantially vacant, they do have a tenant leasing warehouse space. We have had periodic meetings with the Rhode Island Economic Development Commission and now Rhode Island Commerce Corporation to try to bring someone into that building. It's something we've been working on for several years. And I'm pleased to say, but I really can't get into details, that I have been meeting with a developer and a real estate agent representing that developer to renovate the Bostich building, to make substantial renovations to it, to bring in several tenants so that it would have several office tenants in that building, as well as possibly an expansion of some of the current warehousing. So those, I have been meeting with these people. I'm very confident that there will be a presentation coming forth in the next maybe month or two, specifically regarding that and a proposal that a use of that building that's being presented. What that will involve, as I said, will be substantial renovation to that building, increase in value, bringing in employees, bringing in new businesses to that building. So I have to say, where's my approach to that? First of all, I want you to know, as far as tax stabilization treatments, yes, treaties, yes, of course they've brought that up. Everybody brings it up. But no promises have been made to anybody. Everything is just still, everything is still under discussion. I want to note that we did not provide tax incentives to Yardley for a variety of reasons concerning timing, what they were proposing, how it was approached. The state provided some incentives to that, but the town did. The town did not. Bostich, I think, is a unique situation given the size of that building and it's important to our tax base. So for me, I would consider some kind of tax stabilization. What I personally would consider would be something that involves no reduction in the current taxes paid. So I would want to see current taxes paid being maintained. I would want to see a ramp up, a very short ramp up, a short time period to payment of the full taxes based on the renovated value and new use of the building. But I would consider some kind of stabilization within a short time frame. Also, I would say that any deal, any tax deal would have to be, or I would want to see real estate taxes only, not tangible personal property tax. Because remember, businesses pay a real estate tax and a tangible tax. The tangible taxes paid, particularly given the kinds of businesses that are being discussed to come in as tenants, would be very substantial. So in fact, we don't, again, there's discussions or their proposal is fairly far along, but not concrete yet, and all the numbers haven't been generated. But the tangible personal property taxes would generate enough money, I would think, to offset any stabilization in real estate tax. But again, I wouldn't want to see the current level diminished in any way. I just want to conclude in answering this by saying, you know, philosophically, as I said, I'm generally opposed to this, but I think we have to be practical. I think we need to be flexible, take into account unique situations. I think that the state needs to step up more in creating a better tax environment. And also in East Greenwich, I just want to say, we've worked to make this town business-friendly by having no separate commercial tax. Many communities have a separate commercial tax rate, which is higher for businesses than residents. We have no impact fee on commercial development. And now with the fire district merged into the town, there's no fire district fee. So we have taken steps also to create incentives and make this town business friendly. And I wish I could say more about specifics, but really can't negotiate in public on this.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I was gonna ask you if you could name names, and Elizabeth and I, we're reporters, we're always looking for stories, you know? This sounds like it could be a big one, that's great.
Not tonight, unfortunately.
Anybody wanna jump in, anybody wanna challenge? Ed, go ahead.
I don't want to challenge, I just want to point out that Rhode Island taxes are such that I have manufacturing equipment, and new equipment or manufacturing equipment is not taxed. We're only taxed by Situate on our office furniture, computers, and other things like that. So to say you want manufacturing to come in has a certain value. To have somebody that is more like Metropolitan Life, or somebody who has a lot of office desks, a lot of computers, and other things that are in fact taxed, would probably be the way to go to maximize the tax revenue that East Greenwich would get from that building.
Anyone else wanna weigh in, or should we move on to the next question? Okay?